grade 7s or grade 8s and sometimes grade 9, we are still doing the lowest common multiple and the highest common factor. So if you still don't have this down, then let me quickly explain it to you once and for all so that you will never ever struggle with this again. Okay, so whenever you have to find the lowest common multiple and the highest common factor, these are the two things that you need to remember. For the lowest common multiple, I always think the lowest, go down on your knees, low, low, low. And what is the opposite of low, low, low? It's the highest, the most, the biggest, so you do the opposite of what the word is saying. For the lowest common multiple, you are looking for the highest exponent. And if there is prime numbers that are different and they appear in both numbers, you use both of those prime numbers. Okay, and the same with the highest common factor. If you take your hand up and you say highest common factor, what is the opposite of high? You go low, low, low. So it's the smallest exponents. And we only use the prime numbers that is visible in both of our numbers. Okay, so let me give you a demonstration of how we would find this. So just for the purpose of really putting down or pushing through what this means is I'm going to use big numbers. And sometimes when it's big numbers like this, your teacher will tell you what the product of its primes are. So if you want to know how to do this in your calculator, you can, believe it or not, yes, your calculator can tell you what the product of the primes are of these big numbers. So if you've got a scientific calculator, just follow me. You're going to press 3780, 3780, okay? Do you have it in? Then you're going to, let me write it down here as well. Then you're going to press enter, equal. Okay, then the number just appears there on your screen again. Then I want you to press shift, which is in the top left-hand corner. And then after pressing shift, you are looking for the button that is 2 buttons above your number 8. So if you look at number 8, 2 buttons above, you'll see it's like a dot, comma, comma, comma button. And above it, it says fact. So I want you to press that. And what do you see appearing on your screen? 2 to the power 2 times 3 to the power 3 times 5 times 7. How cool is that? Okay, now I want you to do it with the other number as well. 3960, press equal, shift, fact, and that gives us 2 to the power of 3 times 3 squared times 5 times 11. So no more do you have to do the ladder method, especially if you're allowed to use a calculator. So please remember that way of doing it on your calculator. Okay, now let's first look at the first one, the lowest common multiple. I said to you, the lowest common multiple, we are going to use all of it. So whether it's represented there or not, in both, we're going to write there. We've got 2s as your basis. You've got 3s. We've got 5s. We've got 7. And we've got 11. Okay, so when it is in both, what are we going to do? For the lowest common multiple, we're going to use the highest exponent between the 2 prime numbers that have been doubled. So 2, are we going to use the 3 or the 2? No, we want the highest exponent for the lowest common multiple. Then for the 3s, are we going to use the 3 or the 2? Are we going to use the highest one, which is 3? Okay, and for the 5, there was just a 1 and a 1, so the highest is a 1. And then can you see there was a 7 there and an 11, but because it's the lowest common multiple, we're going to use all of the numbers represented. And now we're just going to punch that into our calculator. So 2 to the power of 3 times 3 to the power of 3 times 5 times 7 times 11. And that gives you 83,160. Okay, We'll do 2 more, so don't stress, or I'll do another example of this. But let's have a look at the highest common factor now for these 2 numbers. Right, for the highest common factor, what is opposite to the highest common factor? It's the lowest exponent. And then you must remember, we want to use as few as possible. We only want to use the ones that are doubled in both of our numbers. So we see a 2 in both of those numbers. We see a 3 in both of those numbers. And we see a 5 in both of those numbers. 7, unfortunately, only appears with the top number, and 11 only with the bottom. So now, for the highest common factor, we're going to use the lowest exponent. So between the 2's, there's a 2 to the power 2 and a 2 to the power 3. Which one are we going to use? The lower exponent. Between the 3's, we've got 3 to the power 3 and 3 to the power 2. We're going to use the 3 to the power 2. With the 5, there was only the 5. Okay, now we're going to punch that into our calculator. 2 to the power 2 times 3 to the power 2 times 5. And so the highest common factor between the 2 is 180. Let's do one more example. All right, our second example, let's do this. We are looking for the lowest common multiple and the highest common factor of these 2 numbers. So first, what are we going to do? We're going to use our calculator to break it down into a product of its prime. So 585 equals shift fact, and that gives me 3 squared times 5 times 13. And I'm going to space it out like that so I can see it nicely. And then 2625 equals shift fact, and that gives me 3 times 5 to the power 3 times 7. Okay, so let's start with the lowest common multiple. What is the opposite of low, low, low? We go high, 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 and all of the numbers that are represented. So we have a 3. We've got a 5, we've got a 7, and we've got a 13. So you're going to write all the numbers that you can see. Then, with the ones that are doubled, what are we going to do? We use the one with the highest exponent. Oopsie, 5 to the power of 3. Okay, so instead of a 1 and a 3, I'm going to use the 3. Between a 1 and a 2, I'm going to use the 2. Does it make sense? And then we're just going to pop that into our calculator. So 3 squared times 5 to the power of 3 times 7 times 13. And that gives you a huge number of 102,375. Okay, so that means it's the lowest common multiple. So if you start adding 585 plus 585 plus 585 plus 585 and 2,625 plus 2,625 plus 2,625, once there's going to become a number that they both land on, and that is the 102,375. So that's why we use the biggest number, we use the ones with the biggest exponent, and we use all of the numbers so that we are making sure that we're using all of the prime numbers that is represented in these 2 numbers. Then the highest common factor. Oh, what is the opposite of high? We go low. So only the ones that are represented both times or 2 times or in both numbers. And can you see it's only the 3 and the 5? Then what do? Highest, lowest exponent. 3 to the power 1 and 5 to the power of 1. And 3 times 5 is 15. And that is the way to remember your lowest common multiple and your highest common factor. I hope it makes sense. Have a great day, guys. Cheers.